Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to my channel. This is The Wealthy Sailor and I am John, and this is the channel where we talk about finances, budgeting, and personal financial goals. For example, my personal financial goal, the reason I create this channel, was to catalog my journey while I try to increase my net worth. The reason being is because I want to retire in about 10 years. That's when my fiance, soon to be wife, gets out of the military. She'll be retired from the military, and I just think it'll be nice if I no longer have to work at about the same time that she also will no longer have to work. So with that said, this entire video is going to be all about planning for retirement, specifically figuring out the age in which you want to retire. The problem is, or the simple fact is that a lot of people have this idea that retirement is something far off. Unfortunately, many people don't start saving for it until it's pretty close to the time. Like, even if you start saving for it 10 years in advance, you probably already missed out on several decades worth of growth. Now, that's important because when you invest your money properly, it actually compounds 100% about every 7-8 years, give or take. So if you miss an entire decade, that's 1.5 times it missed compounding. 2 decades, you just missed out on 3 compounding cycles. For those of you who might not be understanding what I mean, what that means is that, let's say you invest $100. In 7 years, it's worth $200. And I know what you're saying, that's not a lot, but in the next 7 years, it's worth $400 and then $800. So imagine this on a scale of what investment accounts have of hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know, if you have $500,000 in your bank account at age 50, if you wait until you're 57, you now have $1 million in your bank account for retirement. That's a huge difference. And then if you manage to wait just another 7 years, $2 million, and so forth and so on. So I wanted to talk about planning for retirement and picking ages and what age is usually the best time for retirement. Now, with that said, I don't know everybody's situation. I'm just going to talk about some situations that I have personal experience with, mainly military people or my friends, my personal family, stuff like that. And then I'm going to talk about myself and what my plan is. So everybody's retirement age is different. Everybody has different stuff going on. For example, if you're one of the types of people that want to prioritize paying for your children's college instead of saving for retirement, then your retirement age will probably be pushed back a little bit. Or maybe you're one of those people that just doesn't want to retire. Like, you just love your job so much you want to retire. That's fine. I'm not trying to make you go in any specific route. But if you do watch this video all the way through, just take some of the knowledge that I talk about and maybe it applies to you. Maybe you can use it or at least share it with somebody else who might need it. So when it comes to retirement, there's really, from what I've experienced, 3 reasons why people retire. One is they physically can't work anymore. This is a major fear of mine. Both my fiance and I work very physically demanding jobs, not as much as like a pro sports player, obviously, but we both deploy a lot, and our health is very crucial for us to continue that source of income. If I break my leg and I take a year to recover, I can't deploy for a year, which means I don't get paid for a year. My fiance, she's military, so it's a little different because she gets some sort of really bad injury. The military actually does take care of you. It's not a perfect system, but the system's gotten a lot better in the last decade or so. But being forced to physically retire could be a problem, and a lot of people aren't prepared for it. So the only advice I can really give you to avoid doing it when you don't want to is try to have a backup career. So if you are like a roofer, maybe take college classes on the side or something where if something happens and you just can't roof anymore, you still have a backup career that you can rely on. Other people want to retire for emotional reasons. They're just done working. And this works if you're financially set. And I think emotionally wanting to retire and your finances kind of go hand in hand, so I'm going to talk about them together. So people just kind of get tired of working. They get tired of the rat race of going and making other people rich or whatever it is. So they want to retire. Now, if you want to retire for that reason, because it's sort of optional, I feel like a lot of people hit the point where they want to emotionally retire before they're financially ready to retire. So that's what I want to talk about now, because a lot of the ages we all talk about is mostly 59 and a half, because that's when you get access to your IRA and your 401k. And then later you do get access to your Social Security benefits, depending on when you want to draw it out, if you want to wait longer for the more amount or not. But most people want to plan around their 401k and their IRA. And that's a good strategy. But I do argue, I'm not saying I'm going to be able to not do it, but I would really like to retire before I'm 60, because at 60, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with working until you're 60. But I just feel like that's a long time to delay satisfaction. If you want to travel and stuff, by the time you're 60, if you take care of yourself, you're still very mobile. But it's still a long time to have to work for. If you want to work, great. But it's a long time to have to work for. So if you're watching this and you're in the fire community, you want to retire early. We all want to retire early. So how do you do that? Well, you have to know what your living expenses are. I like to preach. I tell everybody's different, but a lot of people I talk to, I try to emphasize pretty much plan to work until your primary residence is paid off. It's unfortunate, but it's true. The simple fact is, if you don't have to pay a mortgage anymore, then it really cuts down your living expenses. I mean, your living expenses go down from a quarter to a third automatically just by paying that off. And that really cuts down the amount of money you have to earn each year in retirement. If you can cut back the amount of money you need in retirement for income, you cut back on the total amount of money you need to save, right? So I always tell everybody, like, try to pay off your property first. And you only have to rent. You don't even have to live there. You can rent it out, or you could sell it as another asset. But you really need to be debt-free as much as possible. And I'm talking about all debts: credit cards, student loans, vehicles. Get everything paid off before the day you retire. Now, a lot of people are relying on Social Security retirement plan. Social Security is not a retirement plan. It's a safety net. It doesn't cover most of your expenses. It's actually really sad how little it covers, but that's the way it's set up. So those are the rules we have to play with right now. So I found some statistics that I thought were kind of interesting. This is what the Social Security Administration says. They say that they planned it for low income people for Social Security to cover about 75% of your expenses, figuring that your expenses shrink as you get older. For middle income, it's about 40%. And for high income people, it only covers 27% of your total expenses after retirement. Plus, you don't even get access to it until you're 70 anyway. So if you're retired at 60, that's still 10 years you have to survive before you even get that. So for the sake of this conversation, let's just kind of put Social Security aside for now. So how much money do you actually need? Well, this varies with everybody too. Like I said, if you pay off all of your debt and you pay off your property, then you need a lot less. I planned mine for having $52,000 a year of sustainable income. In fact, the way I did it, I actually planned on growth. The average person probably can survive on closer to $45,000. Now, the way the math works on this is that they figure out what the average safe retirement fund comes in. Because keep in mind that when you retire, you do not keep your money into risky funds. You're not keeping it in international funds or anything like that. Mostly everything's being moved to stock or to bonds, either government or private bonds. The reason is because they're a lot safer. But they have a lower return. So the 4% rule is figuring that you can get reliably 4% interest on it per year, which means you can live off of it forever. So if you retire at, let's say, 70, but you live to be 100, you now just live for 30 years without having any money problems. Now, the way the math actually works out for this is that they figure that your money is going to grow at actually 6% interest. However, 2% of that is cut off because that's canceled out by inflation. So although the money's growing at 6%, your buying power is only growing at 4%. So that 4% is what you can live off. If you have a better year, then you can make more and your account actually grows. I think the key here is to not spend more when those years happen. You just keep it steady, because if you have a good year, you're probably going to have a bad year. So just keep it in there and just keep it steady. So $45,000 a year, assuming you're debt-free, and $45,000 a year, you can actually still afford to make house payments and stuff like that. So let's say $45,000 a year. So you need 25 times that number in order to retire, which puts you at $1.125 million to retire off that. You can retire off way less if you can cut spending and live frugally. In fact, most people on YouTube that do early retirement, they don't live the kind of lifestyle that I personally live. They cut down, they minimize what they spend and stuff like that, and that's fine because they look happy as heck. But that's not what I have in mind. I want my properties paid off. I want certain things. I want to be able to go out and travel and buy a car and stuff like that when I retire. So $45,000 a year. That's how much you need. 1.125 million. If you get that, you can retire. You're safe, and you can live indefinitely off of that at $45,000 a year. Now, here's the thing. When I do my financial planning, I plan my finances independent from my fiance. The reason being is because I started all this stuff independent from my fiance. So I plan to make enough off my retirement alone to cover the entire family. The cool thing is she's doing the same thing. This is where picking a life partner who shares similar goals and aspirations as you really comes in handy. So theoretically, we only have to do half the amount of work each in order to get to retirement. But the thing is that at this point in our lives, we're both able to work, so we're going to continue working and making money and stuff. And honestly, if we're above our mark, we're above our mark. So how do you get to $1.125 million? Well, if you invest a couple $100 a month from the time you're 18 all the way up, you'll get it by the time you're in your 50s. It depends a lot on the market. It depends exactly how much you invest. I didn't do the exact calculation on how much you'd have to invest to get there. But that's roughly what you'd have to do. You can look it up on retirement calculator saying if you're this age and you want to retire at this age, how much money you want to invest in order to get there. That's just the rule of thumb, and that's what my plan is, or that's what the formula I'm going with is. Now, my numbers look a little different than most, though. So first, I'm not planning on spending $45,000 a year. I'm planning on spending $52,000 a year. The reason being is because $52,000 equals up to $1,000 a week. And I think since my fiance and I want to travel, because we both spent so much time in the military and everything, that believe it or not, you travel a lot, but you never travel to the places you want to. Like, I never got sent to like Bora Bora. I never went to any of the fancy islands. I ended up going to like Bremerton, Washington. Like, I did get to go to Crete though. I spent a year there. That was pretty nice. But anyway, so we want to travel and stuff like that, so I feel like having an inflated budget would help with that. Also, I'm only planning on taking out 3%, not 4%, for my expenditures per year. The reason being is because, again, you take 2% away from it anyway for inflation, which means I would need to collect 5%. The average return is 6 to 8%. So if you put all that together, I actually will be gaining wealth each year. So not only can I live sustainably for the rest of my life, theoretically, this is all mathematically, but then it would actually be growing each year, which means each year I get a little bit of a pay raise. I can spend more than the year before, which I'm not really worried about. But when I'm looking at stuff like this, I'm not just thinking about me. I'm thinking about setting up trusts for my kids so that my kids don't have to worry about the stuff I had to worry about. Like, I think my family's been in this country for at least 6 generations. I think I traced it down to 5 generations, but I'm pretty sure 6 generations. And my family has no wealth split up amongst us. Like, we just don't. Everybody who is in the family kind of just starts from scratch, and I think that's really bad. Like, I think that being in this country for so long, my family should have wealth. Like, my family name should come with at least something. Like, you should inherit stuff. We all grew up poor, and there's a lot of vices in my family. There's a lot of alcoholism and stuff like that. So it's a compounding problem, but I don't want that for my kids. I want to make sure that I'm not sure how I'm going to structure it, because obviously I don't want them to not appreciate it or to spend it in a bad way. But I do want to make sure that they're set up and they have their safety net. Something that we never had, but I want to make sure it's done. So that's actually where a lot of this comes from, is that I want to make sure I'm set up, but I also want to make sure my kids, my grandkids, all that stuff are set up too. So I do actually recommend you guys at least think about things that way. Like, if you have kids, if you don't want kids, never mind. But if you have kids and you want to look out for them, then trying to do something like this, I think, is really the best option to do it. So $52,000, and I want that to be 3% of the total, which means I need 1.716 million. 1.7 million is how much I need. That's a lot of money, especially since right now I'm struggling to get to 500,000. However, remember what we talked about earlier about compounding interest. If my net worth is 500,000 by the end of 2021, then that means by 2030, which will put me at 45, it'll be $1 million. And that's if I don't contribute any more to retirement, I don't make more money, and I don't save and invest or anything. It should be about $1 million. So then by the time I'm 50, it should be in that range. So I should be good. Now, I have no idea what's going to happen. I have no idea what's going to happen with the market, and I could lose my job tomorrow. So I'm going to treat every day that I have a well-paying job as an excuse to save as much as I can. But I should be on target, and I do track this in like a spreadsheet, and I do suggest if you guys want to work on this, definitely track where you're going, figure out how much money you should save each year, and then track to make sure you're actually meeting those goals. Because if you're going under those goals, then you're either going to retire with less money or you're going to push off your retirement age. So overall, people don't seem to worry about retirement when they should, which is when as soon as you start working. Like if you start working at 15, I would argue that you should definitely get a 401k or whatever and set up then. But if you are in that mind frame, remember, it's never too late. There's that old saying that the best time to plant a tree was 30 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is right now. And I think that really applies to saving for retirement and investing and stuff like that. And I would recommend that, although we talk about investing on this channel, if you're saving for retirement, that's different than what I figure investing. Like I always tell you guys to like invest in Robinhood or Acorns, and I have the links below if you guys want to do that. But if you want to save for retirement, specifically 401ks, IRAs, that stuff's definitely better because it's tax advantaged. Well, anyway, guys, I think you heard me talk about retirements for long enough. If you like the video, give me a like, a share, subscribe. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate all the attention that everybody's been getting. I really think people have been learning from these videos. They've been taking them very seriously, and honestly, it's been keeping me very motivated to continue on. Even right now with this video, it's been almost 4 months since I started. That's 3 videos a week for 4 months, which is more than I thought I would do. But I'm doing it, and I appreciate you all watching. If you have any advice or anything, leave it in the comment below. If you want to help people out, leave it in the comment below. Anyway, guys, stay safe and keep saving.